We're really privileged and delighted to have Paul Sloane with us, who is an author and an innovator, a career businessman, and he's got this amazing book called Think Like an Innovator, and we shall talk a lot about that. But before we go there, I think it's best if we talk to you, Paul, and talk about your life and how you innovated and what brought you here. What's your story?
Well, it's very nice to be here, Tarek. Thank you for asking me. I originally studied engineering, and then I worked for IBM for 11 years. I was in sales and marketing. I became a marketing director and a managing director of a database company. I was vice president international for a US software company, CEO of a software company. I did the whole corporate thing, starting with very large companies down to smaller companies. For the past 10 years, I've been running my own business, helping organizations improve innovation. And I write and speak on that and go all over the world. And I love coming to the Middle East. I love coming to Dubai.
But that's more your CV. How did you evolve as a person? Were you a naughty child?
Well, yes, I think I was, and I think I was a disruptive child, and always a bit of a rebel. And you need. What I argue in my talks is you need loyal rebels in your business. You need people who are impatient with the way things are going and are prepared to speak up and challenge authority because they want to see the company succeed or the organisation succeed. You don't want quiet rebels who just complain in the corridors. And I was always a little bit of a noisy rebel wherever I worked, and I encourage that.
I have a phrase for that. I call it loyal opposition.
Yes.
Because you need to be loyal, but you need to have that abrasion.
Yes.
To find real
constructive
innovation.
abrasion, they call it. Yes.
Absolutely. In your early days, were there any moments in your life which really defined you, perhaps from your family or a teacher, something that got to the softer side of you and that was your epiphany and brought about change in your life?
Well, when I was a boy at school, I was in short trousers in secondary school and I wore specs, a bit nerdy kind of kid. And one day we had an elocution teacher and he had to teach us how to speak. And I was brought up in the north of England where we have very flat vowels. And one day he came to me and he said, Sloane, I'm going to put you in for a speaking competition. I said, why me? He said, because I think you can do it. And I had to learn a poem and recite it in front of the class. And it was a great poem about the values of honour and courage. I found it quite difficult because boys aren't very good at expressing emotions. He said he was going to put a lot more feeling into it and throw it out there and expose the feelings. And I practiced this and I went for the competition. And I didn't win it. I came third or fourth. There were more polished performers than me. So I thought I'd failed. And I came back and I said, I'm sorry. And I never thanked that teacher. But it's because of him that I can go around and speak in front of huge audiences now, because he encouraged me to try something that I would never otherwise have tried and didn't think I was capable of.
It's interesting, a lot of innovators and a lot of people in your privileged position, there were those moments of doubts and then you overcome them by these type of catalysts. Is that something you train people when you're doing your coaching and stuff, that how to overcome fears, how to overcome doubts? Yes, of course, we all say that and we talk about failure and how you've got to overcome it. And I encourage people with stories more than anything, but they have to experience it themselves. But leaders can create a climate in which it's okay to fail, or they can create a climate in which failure is ridiculed and looked down on. And that's really important. And what I like to do is help leaders create a culture of adventure and agility and experimentation, and they've got to allow. If you empower people to succeed, you have to empower them to fail. How do you celebrate failure?
You celebrate failure, I think, by calling out people who've done something courageous which didn't work in front of the whole team, and you say, John here tried this and it didn't work, but you know what, we need more of that kind of initiative here. And people say, the boss is praising John for failing? What's going on here? Because we tend to celebrate success, which we should do, by the way. We should celebrate success, but we should also honourable failure. I mean, incompetent failure is bad, and we tend to mix two kinds of failure. There's incompetent failure where somebody screws up all the time. You should help them for a while, and if they don't improve, you should get rid of them. But there's honourable failure where you try something new and different and entrepreneurial, and it fails. And most new enterprises, most new businesses fail. And one of the examples I give, is Roger Federer, or Novak Djokovic, or Andy Murray. I said, why did they serve 6 or 7 double faults in a match? They don't need to. They could easily get the second serve in every time by going soft, but they don't want to.
And they don't want to because they know that by going soft with their second serve, they make it easier for their opponent. They're prepared to push their second serve as far as they can, and they're prepared to accept a certain number of failures. And I say there's an optimum number of double faults in a championship match, and it's not 0. And there's an optimum number of mistakes you should make every month, and it's not 0. I mean, if you're making loads of mistakes, that's bad, but you should be trying new things that don't... If everything you try works, you're not being bold enough.
Thank you. I think that's a wonderful response because, as part of Mad Talks, we are putting together a failure channel.
Yes.
And basically, deconstructing and demystifying failure. Because I think if we all have spectacular failures in our lives and we are happy and comfortable to share, it becomes so much easier to be able to cope.
Well, you know what FAIL stands for, don't you?
Yes, and there are various acronyms, but please.
First action in learning. It's corny, but it's the first action in learning. It's failure.
That's absolutely brilliant, actually. Thank you for that. Now, you mentioned the word storytelling.
Yes.
And again, Mad Talks is a storytelling platform, and we call it the future of storytelling. So we're actually looking at the innovative future. In that, how important do you think storytelling is for leaders? Is that something that they need to work with?
Oh, I think it's very, very powerful because people understand through stories. Jesus taught through parables, and his parables are very, very powerful, and people understand them. He didn't use PowerPoint and flip charts and graphs, and the same with, if you're running a hotel and you want to improve customer service, you don't say, last month our customer approval rating was 70%, and this month I want it to be 75%. I want our net recommender score to... What you say is, last month we had a customer here and she had a problem, and Patricia here found this woman and she did this, and you tell the story of what Patricia did and how she turned the situation around, and how the woman then, from being an unhappy customer, became a very positive customer and put a very positive comment on TripAdvisor. So you praise the behaviours you want to encourage by telling stories about them. And then you can also tell stories about things that go terribly wrong and how that affects the customers. And people understand stories and they relate to them.
You'll see a lot of examples of stories. We've got Arabian Nights and Homer's Iliad, Aesop Fables, Canterbury's Tales, and all of these. And I think we are immersed in stories on the one side. And on the other side, we have innovation. We have Professor Bizan, we have books on innovation and so on. So I'm delighted to receive this and I will cherish this gift. What is Think Like an Innovator? What inspired you to do this?
Well, because I tell so many stories and I was collecting stories about people, I thought rather than write a book about innovation, which is theoretical and abstract, I'll just tell stories of 76, as it turned out, great innovators from different fields and different walks of life, but draw out the insights that we, as ordinary people, as ordinary business people or mother or parents or workers, can draw from those stories and apply in our own lives. And it ranges from Hannibal to Oprah Winfrey. Everyone's in there, in all sorts of different fields. And I chose them not because they're the greatest or the most eminent or the best, but because they have good stories to share.
Yeah. One of the things we always talk about when we talk about the future is Moore's law and the rate and speed at which change is happening. How important is innovation in that change? And what do we need to do as individuals to be able to cope with that change?
Well, one of the questions I ask on my workshops is, what is innovation? We talk about innovation and people have different definitions of it. Give me examples of innovation. Then I ask the question, what's the main benefit for your business of innovation? If we were more innovative, what benefits would we get? People say, well, we'd get more customers and we'd be more profitable and we get competitive advantage. And I say those are all true, but the biggest benefit for your business, I believe, of innovation is survival. It's not questionable, it's not optional. It depends. Well, but if you were a family bakery and you've been breaking bread for the last 200 years, maybe you can continue. But any other kind of business, the winds of competition are so savage. You look at what happened to Kodak and Nokia and RIM, who made the BlackBerry. I mean, big, successful, innovative companies, but they just couldn't run fast enough. So it's kind of scary how dangerous innovation is in terms of its competitive pressure, and also what an opportunity it provides for us.
But let me just drill into that. Were they not able to run fast enough, or were they not able to adapt themselves to the shift? Because Kodak didn't go down because it wasn't running fast. Kodak was the inventors of the digital camera.
Yes.
So they actually invented the
I know.
future, and they didn't adopt it. And that's where the whole thing went wrong.
Well, they did bring out a digital camera. I wrote a blog about it. I said, what should they have done? Because everyone talks about Kodak as though, we wouldn't have made the same mistakes. But they had a smart group of people, and they could see what was coming. As you say, they had the first digital camera. They brought out a digital camera, but they couldn't make a lot of money on digital cameras. They were selling it at a loss. And there was nothing would take the place of their huge revenues from film. They diversified, they got new CEOs, they tried all the textbook things to do. And maybe there's just a time when your time's up in this game. And the whole business environment is Darwinian in that new businesses come up and they replace existing businesses. Sometimes if your business model was perfect for the last century but isn't for now, your time's up.
One of my favorite books is Built to Last, Horace and Collins, and they talk about values and the core values of a company that can change and adapt over time, and they obviously speak about Darwin there. Another famous author and professor from my university is Professor Clayton Christensen, who speaks about innovators' dilemma. Would you like to share some of your thoughts on that?
Well, so it's one of my favourite. I nominated a list of the top 10 innovation books on Amazon, and Innovator's Dilemma was number 1 for me. I thought that was a brilliant book. I thought it was better than his Innovator's Solution, by the way. I thought that wasn't quite so good. But in it he says that that major companies make the big mistake of listening to their customers. And this was a shock when I read it.
Absolutely.
This was like a revelation.
Absolutely.
They made the mistake of listening. And what he says is you should listen to your customers, but your customers can mislead you, because what they say is, we love what you're doing, do more of what you're doing. And Smith Corona made beautiful typewriters, and they're beautiful type. And the customers said, keep making a typewriter, they're beautiful. And they made their typewriters better and better and better. And word processors came along and killed them stone dead. And then Wang, who made word processors, were killed when all of that functionality could be put on a PC with a piece of software. So just being good and listening to your customers and serving your customers and producing a high quality product isn't sufficient anymore. Innovation can still come along and kill you.
What's your favourite story from the book?
Well, I've got lots of stories, but I like the story of Sidney Bernstein. And in 1952 there was only one TV station in the UK. It was the BBC, and the government decided to auction licenses for commercial TV stations by region. A lot of companies thought this was a big opportunity. The license to print money, people, so selling advertising on the TV for the first time in the UK. So they put teams of analysts on there to work out which regions had the best demographics, the wealthiest people who would generate the most advertising revenue. And Sidney Bernstein ran a little chain of cinemas in the south of England, 7 cinemas, called Granada Cinemas. And he said to his team, I want to bid for one of these regions. He said, well, I don't want to bid for the richest region. I want you to find me the wettest region in the UK. And they went away, they came back and they said the wettest region in the UK is the northwest of England, Liverpool, Manchester, Bolton, Bury, all those places. He said, we'll bid for that. And they bid for it and they got it fairly cheaply. And he created Granada Television, which is based in Manchester. And he'd realised there's no point in getting Brighton or the London Borough of Chelsea and Westminster if everyone's out walking the dog in the park or gone to the restaurant. You want somewhere where it's pouring down outside and people stay in to watch TV. And the point of the story is this: when everyone else is looking for the richest, the great innovator, the lateral thinker, deliberately looks in a different direction for the wettest. And they did some very, very innovative things after that. And of all the companies that won a franchise in 1953, the only one that survived to this day is Granada.
Brilliant. Lovely story. What do the emerging markets need to do to survive the future?
Well, if we look, and Dubai is a fine example where there's been a lot of investment in education and infrastructure and facilities, and it's succeeded. In contrast to a lot of other places in the Middle East which are really, really struggling. If you look at Cairo or Riyadh even, these places, they're stuck to some extent in the past. And it's a big, big challenge. And what we need to encourage is the diversity and education and opportunities which people can then grab for themselves. It's not something I think the government can mandate. It's very difficult for the government to make the right bets in terms of innovation. Let 1,000 flowers bloom and let the most successful grow big. And if you have a media city and an internet city, as we have here in Dubai, and you encourage lots of small companies, many of them will fail, but some will grow to be big and successful. But you have to create an environment in which
that's allowed and encouraged, and people can succeed. So the job of government, I think, and of cities in particular, and we're heading more and more towards city-states almost,
Correct.
is to create an environment in which successful people can flourish and attract other successful people towards them.
One of the theses that I have is that solutions in the emerging markets, whether it's Africa, South Asia, especially the poorer countries, where a very large part of the world's population resides, that the solutions and the innovation will come
Yes.
from the ground level. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I wrote a blog about this. Our Africa's innovators, the people who provide Africa's solutions. And of course, there are a tremendous number of really innovative people in Africa who are capable of producing solutions for the problems that they see locally with the resources they have locally. If only the politicians would get out of the way and give them the freedom and ability to do that. So it's corrupt governments that are the curse of Africa. It's not a lack of innovators or engineers or enthusiastic people. So we need to encourage that and give them help. And very often there's this concept of frugal innovation, where ideas which start in the third world, in the developing world, come back to the developed countries because they're often better solutions.
So let me take an extreme question. It's controversial by design, and that is that are we over-innovating in places like Silicon Valley and Boston in terms of driverless cars, and that'll represent only 20 cities in the world, while all the big cities, Cairo, Mumbai, Karachi, Lagos, they will never ever be able to use the driverless cars.
I think we're heading driverless everywhere, and the compelling reason for driverless is the number of road deaths in Mumbai and Cairo. And nearly all road deaths and accidents are caused by human error. And you take the human out of the driver's seat, and the car becomes a lot safer and more efficient, and you can control traffic flow and all sorts of things. So I think that will prove a huge boon, not for taxi drivers, but for the population as a whole. So I think a lot of those things will help, and it will help cut pollution, which is desperately needed. I mean, Beijing has terrible pollution problems, so as have many cities. So I think technology and science and innovation is what will save us from climate change, from pollution, from all of these things, and we need to invest more in it. I'm a big believer in innovation is the answer.
Indeed. Now, if I am a business leader of a mid to large size company, how do I future-proof myself over the next 10 to 15 years from innovation and from within my own? What are your top 3 bits of advice?
Well, the first answer is you can't future-proof yourself. If you're in business, you're at risk. And the first message is don't avoid risk. Don't hunker down and think my job is to minimize risk. Your job is to manage risk. Your job is to place some bets. And you'll place some bets and they won't all work. But you've got to keep placing bets. You've got to allocate time, people and money to experimentation, to trying new things. You should listen to your customers, obviously, and you should anticipate their needs. You need to look outside. So a really good way to innovate is to see something that's working elsewhere in a different industry or a different country and be the first to do it locally in your business. So if you're the first funeral director in Dubai to do something which all funeral directors in Amsterdam are doing, you look really cool. But you might be the first hairdresser to do something that no hairdresser's ever done, but funeral directors are doing. I don't know. But so pinching ideas from outside is something you should invest time and effort in. And there are websites that can help you do that, to spot trends. They say the future's already here, it's just unevenly distributed. So if you go out and look, the other thing I would say is you've got smart people, and some of the people that work for you have got great ideas, and your job is to listen to them and give them a forum and encourage them to come through with ideas and then back them to try some of their ideas. Not all their ideas, you can't. And the big concept nowadays in innovation, the hot topic, is the minimum viable product. So you don't bet the whole company on a major new launch and try and get everything perfect and invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in getting the new product out in 18 months' time. What you do now is you say, what's the minimum viable version which I can put into the hands of the customer to test the concept? It's a crappy thing, it's incomplete, it doesn't completely work, but it tests the concept. And when you put it in the hands of the customers, they say, no, this is wrong, and you've got this wrong, but we like this. And it helps you. And you should go as quickly as you can. And when somebody comes to you and says, I need $50,000 to develop the prototype, your answer is,
what can you do for $5,000? What can you do at low cost in the next couple of months to test?
Going back to Innovator's dilemma, and my question really as an extension of that is, do you really think large corporations can genuinely innovate from within, or they need to find different types of solutions to cross-fertilize or innovate from outside? I know you said you could borrow from ideas outside. What could you do in terms of creating little sandboxes outside and basically skunk works outside, and let them do the innovation, because it cannot happen from within?
Yes, I mean, it's difficult for large companies to be really innovative. They lose the sense of agility that small companies have. And there's all sorts of solutions been tried for this, with mixed success. So a company has a chief innovation officer, they have an innovation department. A company like Cisco innovates by buying small companies. They've bought over 150 small companies. They see a small company, they buy it, and they don't try to integrate it. They keep it separate, they let it develop, they let it keep its culture. Because if you absorb a small company into the large company, then the culture in one, the antibodies kill the other one. So there's different approaches. Procter Gamble use open innovation, where they aim to get 50% of their new product innovations from small companies outside. And what they say is, you've got a great idea for a product, we've got a great route to market. I mean, we've got all the routes to market, distributors around the world. Give us a great product and we'll take it. And that works for the FMCG companies. And they're competing with each other to be the best home. But they don't say we want any idea. If you go on the website of Unilever or Reckitt Benckiser or Johnson & Johnson, they say we're looking for these kinds of solutions in these kinds of areas. If you've got a solution to how we can produce a cleaning product that works on plastics in this environment, we want to hear. So small companies that have got a great solution have now got a superb route to market through the big companies.
So within this book, are there any role models that you can that we could look up to in this part of the world, particularly? Because and when I say this part of the world, I don't just mean Dubai or just the diaspora around it. I mean this entire emerging region, Middle East, Africa, South Asia. Who are the great heroes in this book?
Well, there's lots of them, and I'm struggling to pick just one. But as I mentioned the other day, Nick D'Aloisio, he was born in 1995, he's a young chap, and at the age of 16 he was studying at home, and he was frustrated because he couldn't find a summary of the documents that he wanted when he searched for his homework in Google and places. And he created an app which would summarize the key points of any document automatically, and he called it Sumly, and he made it into an app and he put it on his iPhone, and he offered it as a download, and within a few months there were 100,000 downloads, and within a couple of years Yahoo bought it off him for $30 million. And the message there is, you're never too young to start. And the message is, young people who see a problem and have got the technical skills to write some code can produce an app, and apps are the future. So any young person could start a business. Also in there, though, is Ray Kroc. Ray Kroc took over the McDonald's business when he was 60, and he launched and he was devoted to it for the next 20 years. That you're never too old to start a business, you're never too young to be an entrepreneur, and you don't have to have a certain level of qualification or degree or anything else. You need to see a problem and have the gumption to solve it.
Let's imagine today is your 90th birthday. We are celebrating your 90th birthday. We've come here. What will we be celebrating? What would you have become?
Well, it's a good question, and it's something we all need to consider after we achieve the basic things. We set out in life to be wealthy and healthy and have a family and bring up the children. You reach a stage where you brought up your children and you've got enough money, and you think, what's next? And as Stephen Covey says, you should think about your legacy. Yes. What am I going to leave behind that makes the world in any sense a better place? And Bill Gates, you see him working on his legacy, giving away his money, trying to solve malaria. I mean, what a fantastic challenge to take on, and he's making a big impact, by the way. And I wouldn't in any sense put myself in the same league as someone like him. But I'd like to think that people will say your blogs, your articles, your books have made a difference and have helped people.
So who will be coming and celebrating that with you?
My children and my grandchildren, maybe even one or two great-grandchildren by then.
Okay. So your tombstone will stay, here was the innovator. I mean, what would your tombstone stay?
He helped people. He made a difference. He was a great father, a great grandfather, and a useful innovator.
Brilliant, thank you. Anything that I may have missed that you'd like to share, you'd like to add, because this was obviously an open conversation, but any statements you'd like to make? Any comments, any thoughts?
No, just challenge yourself to do something different every day.
Great. Paul Sloane, real pleasure.
Tarek, my pleasure.